Today we are tackling the Fume Knight, easily one of the hardest bosses of Dark Souls 2. Before running in, we should have already unlocked the lowermost floor bonfire, which is a very close run back, and we should have also taken out as many of the idols around the boss arena that you can. In this case I'd taken out 3, leaving 1 at the end, which was perfectly fine for me. As you first pass through the fog gate, the fight won't start immediately. It will only happen once you run partway into the arena. So once you're ready to jump in, you can get a couple of hits in as he's loading in. Now, I personally wanted to lure him back to the fog gate, as that took him away from the last of the idols, which can heal him if he's within range. Obviously, if you have more of them, you'll need to be more mindful about that. If you have no idols, you don't need to worry at all. For the first of the 2 phases of the Fume Knight, the general approach that I found easiest was to stay to the rightmost side in the direction that you are facing, and generally speaking, dodging right. A lot of his combinations he leads with his smaller straight sword, and it's often followed up with some bigger swings from the great sword. It's really just a matter of recognizing and learning the patterns and dodging. With regards to swings from the smaller sword, you'll usually want to dodge very quickly to the right, whereas with the great sword, you'll see that there's a bit of a lag from when you start swinging to when it connects. So I found for the great sword the easiest way to time the dodge was to start your roll, not when he raises the sword, but when the swing actually commences. Another move that you'll see him do a fair bit is swinging the great sword in a big arc, either sideways or over his head. It's a really slow telegraphed move, and you'll find that's one of the easiest times to get some hits in. Stamina management is super important in this fight, so my usual rule of thumb was to just take 1 hit and play it safe. Sometimes when you're standing to his side or his back, he'll do a swing of his greatsword in an arc behind him without facing you, and as with the other greatsword moves, your best bet is to just roll straight through it. I started practicing using a shield initially, but I found that it would just drain so much stamina that it wasn't worth it, and it was a lot more efficient to just learn to roll through or past the attacks. Once you've got the Fume Knight to 50% or lower health, he'll raise his sword. Above his head there's an orange glow coming out, and this marks the start of the second phase. You can risk a hit or 2 when he's got his sword raised up. Personally, I found it a bit safer to just back up straight away, as you'll see that one of his moves really demands that you keep distance from him. For this phase, his hits and combos are generally slower and less hectic, but they do a lot more damage. So you want to stay at or very close to full health, and just like in the first phase, whenever you have time to get a hit in, you could instead take a heal. As with the first phase, you'll again want to, generally speaking, strafe to the right and roll to the right of his fast attacks, which are a combination of slashes from both directions, and he has a separate forward lunge attack as well. In this second phase, the attack that I had the most trouble with was his slow sweeping attack that comes from your left side. I found it really awkward in terms of the timing and trying to differentiate it from his fast slash, but you'll see him start it up and it has a much slower load time. The timing that you'll need to master is really rolling through it, not away from it, and you need to time your roll really just as the blade's about to make contact with him. A good visual cue for this move is you'll see the hilt of his sword go above his head and it starts glowing. The AoE attack is why you generally want to keep your distance a bit more in your second phase. You'll see the Fume Knight plunge his sword into the ground, make as much space as you can, at least a couple of rollbacks. That will keep you clear from the first blast of the AoE. That's then followed by fireballs that go out in 360 directions. Now, you can stay locked on to the Fume Knight and really just try and maneuver your character through gaps in the fireballs, but if it's looking a bit sketchy, you can also roll through at the last second to try and help dodge. Now, it didn't happen in this clip, but in the second phase, the Fume Knight can also launch into the air and try to target you. Once again, as with many Dark Souls bosses, the best bet is to dodge really the last second before he lands, and that's another perfect opportunity to land another hit into him. If you're really struggling with this boss, I get it. It probably took me 30 plus tries. The biggest takeaway that I had from that was about really just learning to time when you go for your shots, and in most cases just taking one shot. If you do take a hit from the boss, which you'll see I did plenty of times in this video, do your best to not panic. Just go back to dodging his combinations, and then when there's an opening, rather than going for a hit yourself, take a swig of your Estus flask then. There's also an NPC summon that you can summon right at the bonfire before the fight. I never tried it. I read some comments online about it actually making the fight harder, but it's worth noting. Alright, I hope that helped. Thanks for watching. Good luck.